Still better than 50 Shades of Grey. Hello my beautiful watchers, and welcome to an episode that seemed like a good idea at the time. Okay, for the dozen or so people who don't know, the Amish are a particularly devout offshoot of American Christians, mostly the descendants of German-speaking Swiss colonists. Their interpretation of the Bible tends to favour a pretty heavy adherence to humility and simplicity, so as a result they intentionally limit the technology they use in day-to-day life, mostly working in farming communities, living in homes without electricity, and using horse buggies as their primary mode of transport. They're also famous for adhering to a pretty strict old-fashioned dress code and are stereotyped for being fanatically hard workers when it comes to manual labour. Because of this rather extreme and hard to relate to choice of lifestyle, they tend to be the subject of ridicule when depicted in American pop culture. This description only really applies to what's known as the Old Amish. There's dozens of other offshoots of the Amish faith who lead radically different lives, but the book I'm about to discuss pretty much exclusively concerns the Old Amish, so assume that's who I'm talking about when I say Amish. My first reaction when I discovered that Amish Romance, or bonnet rippers as they're humorously nicknamed, is a massively successful subgenre was something akin to outright confusion, exacerbated no end when I also learned that they sell really well in audiobook form. I mean, who the hell is listening to them? The Amish certainly aren't following the unique link audible.com/thedom to get a free audiobook and 2 free Audible originals with their 20-day free trial. But I quickly discovered that the actual Amish have literally nothing to do with Amish romance novels, and in fact find the fetishization of their lifestyles and love lives baffling and insulting. No, the Amish romance subgenre is entirely created by and for non-Amish evangelical Christians who want to read about a romance that's exotic to them but still 100% Christian and American, so it doesn't challenge their beliefs in any way, and apparently the Amish fill that niche. The particular audiobook I listened to is called An Amish Harvest. It's a collection of 4 short stories by 4 different authors. Unlike most Americans, the Amish are apparently bilingual, as their first language is a dialect known as Pennsylvania Dutch, which is a bit weird considering it's actually a form of German and has nothing to do with the Dutch of the Netherlands. The name apparently came about over time because people kept mispronouncing Deutsch, which is the German word for German. The reason I mention it is because a lot of words in this book are switched out with this other language. Kinder instead of kids, Frau instead of wife, Vater instead of father. If what I just said sounds weirdly familiar to you, then you watched my latest episode of Lost in Adaptation. Yeah, I didn't expect this book to have anything in common with A Clockwork Orange either, but here we are! The Amish allegedly referred to the rest of America as the English because of this language difference, so if you've ever seen a parody of an Amish person saying, "Pardon me, English," then they're basically saying, "Hello, not Amish person." Anyway, that's probably enough introduction, let's get down to the biscuits. Book 1, Under the Harvest Moon by Beth Wiseman. A story largely about recovering from domestic violence. Wouldn't have been my first choice for the setting of a love story, but let's see where this goes. Synopsis. A young Amish woman named Naomi finds herself abruptly free of her abusive husband when he dies in a horse and carriage accident, leaving her with 2 young daughters and 4 months pregnant. It's Amish custom, at least in this book, to immediately remarry after a bereavement, but Naomi is too traumatized from the beatings she received from her last husband to ever truly love again. That is, until her father hires a longtime friend of his, #NotAllMenGoodGuyBrock, to help with her harvest. Naomi and #NotAllMenGoodGuyBrock hit it off, and her kids instantly adore him. They go to a carnival and have a pleasant game night, and at the end Brock decides to become Amish so they can get married. If you're feeling charitable, there's what you could refer to as a subplot about an elderly lady who's possibly a Wiccan scamming Naomi out of her money by selling her overpriced charms that supposedly protect against miscarriages, but her involvement in the plot just kind of fizzles out at the end when #NotAllMenGoodGuyBrock tells her to back off, and she does. I have to say, I was impressed with this particular book because it shows a good understanding of the non-sexual fantasies of single moms. I've had several single mother friends throughout my life, and I am confident in saying that the idea of meeting a man that they like and their children instantly approve of, are emotionally ready for them to date, and have a great rapport with is so super appealing to them. In fact, the wee Amish girls are really into #NotAllMenGoodGuyBrock to an almost comical level. Oh, hello there, you must be Brock. Yes, it's nice to meet you.
Yay! New daddy! This guy's awesome! You should kiss him and make a baby!
I've seen stories about abuse handled much worse than this, ranging from downplaying its damage to straight up romanticizing it. You know which books I'm talking about there. #NotAllMenGoodGuyBrock making Naomi realize that she's not to blame is a good thing. Throughout most of the story, she's plagued with the ridiculous notion that she somehow made an otherwise really good man violent by being a subpar wife. However, I'm not super keen on the story implying that the love of the right person can heal the PTSD she very clearly has, because it's just not that simple in real life, and I can't help but fear that in a small way it contributes to the stigma that pushes people away from the decision to get the therapy they so desperately need. I know that in this particular case it's virtually impossible for Naomi. I mean, even if Amish therapists were a thing, this book makes it pretty clear that there's no way she could afford it, but like I said, it's not the Amish listening to these books, it's people with potential access to needed therapy. That's right, Dom Noble, formerly known as the Dom, thoroughly endorses getting therapy. It is a very, very good thing, and more people should do it. The, anti-witchcraft message was a bit weird. I don't know if the author intended to make the villain sympathetic, but I sure as fuck felt bad for her. I mean, yes, she was overcharging a vulnerable pregnant woman for her charms, but you find out that she's not only in extremely poor health, but she's also been ostracized from her Christian community her whole life for daring to believe in healing crystals. You know, I personally used to be like really impatient with that sort of thing, but I swear to goodness, in 2019, there is so much worse shit going on. It seems so harmless to me now, you know, just fine, yeah, you get your amethyst. I hope it sorts your love life or whatever. The Amish word for her, again, just according to this book, is apparently powwower, which appears to be an appropriation of a Native American word for their spiritual gatherings, so, fuck. Hashtag not all men good guy Brock thinks that she probably did some background research on Naomi and found out that she'd had a miscarriage the year before, so knew exactly how to scam her, but he presents no evidence towards this aside from his logic that, ooh, you know, witchy women just do this sort of thing. So, yeah, depending on how you look at this, it's either a noble gentleman protecting his vulnerable friend, or a large man using his size to intimidate a desperate old woman because he doesn't approve of her beliefs. Very confusing thing. After this story ended, there's these, questions. It starts with the narrator asking if the reader has ever suffered abuse like Naomi, so I thought perhaps it was going to be like a shout out to a victim helpline, but then she goes on to ask if the reader thinks that the big age gap between the leads is going to be a problem and a bunch of other things, so I don't know, it's like it's got a built-in request for a book report. I was mightily befuddled because this was the only book of the 4 in this collection that does this, but I mean, maybe it made more sense when this book was published just as a short story. It might also be something that the author just does, like includes discussion questions at the end of her work, I don't know. Book 2, Love and Buggy Rides by Amy Clipston. In my opinion, this book was a notable dip in quality from the first one, both in the corniness of the plot and the writing in general, which ironically actually made it my personal favourite as it manages to get close to being so bad it's good level. Synopsis. An Amish girl named Janie witnesses a teenage driver texting on his phone crash into the back of an Amish buggy, injuring several people. The reckless car driver blames the carriage's driver Jonathan for the accident and tries to sue him. Janie is forbidden to give her account of the incident to the police by her father, who claims that the Amish custom is to never get involved in legal matters, but she falls in love with Jonathan, so disobeys her dad to get him off the hook. The rest of the story is, a tad silly, you could say. Wow, Janie, the way you stopped withholding evidence from the police has made me love you.
Not so fast. As her curmudgeony father, I'm mad she disobeyed me, so I won't give you my blessing.
Oh, if only there was a convenient way for him to earn my Vada's approval.
Ha! This is a stick-up. Give me all your money.
Not on my lack of watch. Amish, punch!
Hey, thanks for saving my daughter. I guess you can have my blessing after all.
Yay! A sentence at the start of this actually made me laugh out loud. When Janie first sees Jonathan, she's immediately breathtaken because she'd never seen eyes that reminded her of the honey that she buys at the farmer's market before. It's just so hilariously specific. Later, she says that she looks into her sister's chocolate-coloured eyes, and I was like, well, wait a second, are we talking Cadbury's or like the stuff you get from Walmart? Help me out here. I don't have much else to say about this one, to be completely honest. Shockingly, the tension of, will this adult woman blindly obey her father or do the super obvious right thing failed to keep me super invested in the story, and the before mentioned convenience of the conflict at the end was unmissable. Book 3, A Quiet Love by Kathleen Fuller. This one's a little awkward. Synopsis. An Amish, antisocial, introverted poetry fanatic with a very bad speech impediment named Dinah is sent to her aunt's farm for a week to stay with her new husband, and his autistic son Amos. Just before she arrives, her uncle badly injures himself with a scythe and can't finish harvesting the fields, so it's up to her and Amos to get the job done. Dinah finds Amos's earnest attitude and lack of judgment towards her stutter so relaxing, she finds she's able to talk to him without her speech impediment when it's just the two of them. They start to develop feelings for each other, and she quickly becomes becomes frustrated at the way that his family patronizes him to the point of treating him like a child most of the time. They eventually decide to get married, which completely shocks his family, partly because they're concerned that he might not be able to make an informed decision like this, and partly because they've only known each other for 2 frickin' weeks. But they get married anyway, the end. The intent here, I would like to think, was good. It was supposed to show that while everyone was kind to Amos, Dinah was the only one who genuinely saw him as an adult and an equal. The problem is, she comes off as a bit hypocritical to me. She's annoyed at Amos's family for infantizing him, but what initially endeared him to her was the fact that his severe autism made him less threatening to her and her insecurities, and quite frankly, she was a tad patronizing to him herself sometimes. Like I said, probably good intention, but imperfect execution. I mean, I've not heard of many romance stories that directly involve someone on the spectrum, so representation, I guess? It transpires that Amos is illiterate, and I thought for a brief second that this was going to be an acknowledgement that an Amish lifestyle isn't ideal for someone who requires special needs education. Growing up heavily dyslexic, I don't think that I personally would have survived low-tech schooling. But no, this turns out to be nothing more than the setup for another romantic gesture, as Dinah offers to help him learn and has more success than his teachers because love. Book 4, Mischief in the Autumn Air. This is the only story in the book in which the plot is more important than the romance, and the plot is basically National Treasure but Amish. Synopsis! Martha, a bookkeeper at an Amish auction house, and her boss Eli get suspicious when a young man overbids on pieces of furniture that were all made by a specific gentleman. They investigate and discover different sections of a map carved into the undersides, along with hints and clues and references to a treasure. They confront the teenager, and he confesses that, sorry, this particular story is a little hard to explain, so bear with me. His father knew about the map because he used to work with the guy who's selling the furniture. They discovered the complete map together, carved onto a wardrobe, and it came with like some weird hints saying, you know, you'll find the true treasure of our town if you follow this map, but the other guy didn't want to follow it, so they had this big falling out, and he ended up obsessing about it his whole life and tasked his son with solving the mystery on his deathbed. Meanwhile, the other guy decided to split the map up and carve it onto like 8 different pieces of furniture for reasons, and you know what? This doesn't really matter. All 3 of them team up to follow the clues and find the treasure. That's the important bit. Their hunt leads them all around their town and forces them to relearn its rich history, and eventually they do find the treasure, and, you know, it's not terrible. It's like some 400-year-old letters and a very old Amish Bible and stuff. You know, some museum-quality things, but the story still wraps up on a, you know what, it doesn't matter. The true treasure was the romance we found along the way sort of message, as Martha and Eli are totes in love now. You know, shocking plot twist there. This story has a subplot about Martha trying to get along with her unnecessarily grumpy aunt, the casually mentioned in the epilogue off-page resolution being that she found out that she was an undiagnosed diabetic who cheered up no end once she started getting treatment. The forced relocation of Native Americans and the seizure of their lands came up a lot in the history that the Amish Scooby Gang learn in their adventure, and I briefly thought that this was building to something deep, you know, like the treasure they found would make these Amish people have to confront the role their people played in this rather nasty historical act. Apparently this sort of historical self-honesty is not unheard of amongst the Amish. But no, the Native American connection is just treated as an interesting tidbit, and the treasure just reinforces what a long and rich history the Amish have. So yeah, this final book was a huge leap forward in convoluted writing, but Lord help me, I was just so pleased to see an actual plot at last, and the writing is pretty good in this one. It almost tricked me into being invested at one point, which was unique for this particular reading experience. Now, this is a Christian book, so as you might expect, the characters talk about what they pray for constantly. They give God credit for their achievements, attribute every nice thing that happens to his love, and all the bad things to his divine plan. A consistent message throughout this entire collection is, you do not have to try to find love. All 4 of these romances happened because someone new entered these people's lives by pure chance and instantly formed an overwhelmingly powerful connection with them. So yeah, I guess just keep living your life and doing your job, and God will bring your soulmate to you. There's no need to work for it, just relax and the big guy upstairs will find you a husband or wife. Jesus swipes right so you don't have to. Another consistent message is, oh, age is just a number. In the first story, a woman in her 20s marries a 40-year-old, in the second, a 30-year-old guy gets with a 20-year-old girl, and in the fourth one, I think the ages were 30 to 50. It's brought up in the first and second stories, but very quickly dismissed as not a deal-breaker for anyone involved. The authors almost seemed a bit defensive on the matter to me. I don't know if I'm imagining that. A third constant is the complete lack of stakes in any of these stories. Every hurdle to the happy ever after is comedically tiny and instantly overcome with little to no effort. We can't be together because you're not Amish. I'll convert. Oh, okay. We can't be together because you live really far away. I'll move closer. Sweet. We can't be together because we've only known each other for 2 weeks. Let's just get married anyway. Good idea! This, I believe, is not a romance novel trope that's unique to stories centered around the Amish, but still. As you might have noticed, I, apparently foolishly, thought that several things in this were building up to a character admitting, even just to themselves, that there are some drawbacks to eschewing the advantages of modern society, but I was wrong every time. These authors are evidently pretty committed to romanticizing the Amish way of life, and that apparently involves avoiding anything that could be perceived as a negative reflection on it. So, all in all, with the possible exception of the second story, this book really isn't bad enough to be in so bad it's good territory, and it's really not shocking that it doesn't entertain me. It was never intended for me. I'm neither Christian nor particularly interested in romance novels. You might be wondering why the heck I chose to subject myself to it if that's the case, and I guess it is about time I come clean. I do have an ulterior motive. It's because I'm rather fond of the narrator of the audiobook, Heather Wynn. You might know her as Kaluna from Kaluna Reviews. So yes, this entire thing was a disguised plug for my significant other's voice acting career. Sorry. I would really like to see Kaluna get some more books to narrate, which will be much more likely if this one sees good sales and gets good reviews in regards to its narrator, so this is a unique opportunity for you to do us both a favour in one fell swoop. If you already have an Audible account and just happen to have a free credit, you know, could be a good use for it. If you don't, you can use my unique link and you'll get a free credit when you sign up. You can get this book, give it a good review, and you do not have to continue with the 20-day free trial. No pressure, of course, my beautiful watchers, and as always, thank you for joining me. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so the unholy abomination that is the YouTube algorithm doesn't drag my channel to hell, and I will see you soon. Much love and appreciation to my patrons of honour, Sasha I. Edwards and Shelby Holtz. Hello again, my beautiful watchers. I just wanted to take this opportunity to give you a quick reminder that there's a wonderful website called Patreon that's been allowing online producers to actually make a living doing what they do, since apparently YouTube's decided that they shouldn't anymore. Basically, they offer the chance to pledge a certain amount of money per month or per video in exchange for various rewards offered by the creator. There's a variety of stuff you can earn by becoming one of my patrons, including early access to all videos and taking part in that survey you see at the start of every Lost in Adaptation episode. That's actually a very important part of the process, as I use it to gauge how much I'm going to need to explain about the book and the film before I start comparing them. If you decide to become a higher level contributor, your name will be added to the credits that you're seeing right now, and you'll be given the option to join my private chat room so you can regularly talk with me and other patrons. If you're keen enough to join the topmost tier of patronage, you'll earn the most coveted of all the rewards, the chance to pick a future adaptation to be reviewed by yours truly. However, if right now you are thinking, my goodness the Dom, I can't do that. According to the rather unusual laws of my country, I must defeat several alligators in Mortal Kombat before I'm legally allowed to support online content, and I'm afraid my reptilian martial arts are just not what they used to be. Fear not, it would still be a huge help to me if you were to give that like button the old clickaroo, share this episode on social media with perhaps a little recommendation to your friends to check it out, and subscribe if you've not already. It really helps my channel grow and reach new beautiful watchers. I hope you have a most pleasant day, and I will see you in the next episode. Oh, if only there was some convenient... What's the line? And in fact find the fetishization of their loved lives and love lives. What? You are being a loud kitty, but I love you. It's a collection of 4 short stories by 4 different authors. La 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 la. That is, until her father hires a longtime friend of his, hashtag... Don't know what an hashtag is. If you're feeling charitable, there's what you could call it. Even if an Amish therapist was a thing, the Book 2, Love and Buggy Rides by Amy Clipson. How the fuck do you say this name? You're still being a butthead, but I still love you, 'cause you're my special Sir Terry Pratchett. Not to be confused with the author with the same name. Floofy. Yeah, okay, that's fair. Crashing into the back of an Amish budgie. Why would you be riding a budgie? Too small to ride around. It almost tricked me into being invested at one point, which was a unique experience in this particular reading experience. Got that wrong. It was never intended for me. I am neither Christian nor... Didn't finish that sentence on the script, apparently. Someone's in a hurry. It was supposed to show that while everyone was kind to Amos, Dina. My cat. Getting wet hairs all over my shirt, I've just realised. I'm going to put you in the cat tower. Oh, that's not coming off. These authors are evidently pretty committed to romanticising the Amish way of life, and that apparently involves
Not so fast. As her stodgy old curmudgeony father, I'm mad
Oh, what? I went in to Kermit the Frog briefly.